The candlelight flickered, casting trembling shadows across the dining room table, where a single rose lay wilting beside an untouched glass of wine. I sat alone, the ticking of the clock slicing through the silence, each second a reminder that she was late, again. Our 10th anniversary, a milestone I'd spent weeks planning, was unraveling before it even began. My phone buzzed, and her text lit up the screen. Running late at work. Be home soon. My gut twisted. Something about the words felt hollow, like a note left by someone already halfway out the door. I'd known Claire for 12 years, loved her for 11, and married her for 10. She was the woman who laughed at my terrible puns, who cried during thunderstorms because they reminded her of her childhood, who promised me forever under a starlit sky. But lately, forever felt like a promise she'd forgotten. Her late nights at the office, her guarded phone, the way her eyes darted away when I asked about her day. It all stacked up like bricks in a wall between us. Tonight, though, I'd planned to tear that wall down. I'd cooked her favorite meal, lit candles, even bought a sapphire necklace to match the earrings I gave her on our first anniversary. But as the clock struck 9, doubt crept in like a thief. I poured myself a whiskey, the burn in my throat matching the ache in my chest. The house felt too big, too empty. I wandered to the living room, where our wedding photo hung above the fireplace. Claire's smile in that picture, wide, unguarded, felt like a memory from someone else's life. I pulled out my phone and opened the tracking app we'd installed years ago. A silly precaution from when we were paranoid about losing each other in crowded places. Her location blinked on the map. Not her office, but a hotel downtown. My heart stuttered. I refreshed the app. The dot didn't move. The drive to the hotel was a blur of red lights and half-formed prayers. Maybe it was a work event. Maybe she'd forgotten to tell me. Maybe I was overreacting. But the weight in my stomach told me otherwise. The hotel lobby was all polished marble and soft jazz, a world away from the chaos in my head. I flashed a smile at the receptionist, claiming I was meeting my wife for a surprise. She pointed me to the bar on the 15th floor. Each step up the staircase felt like climbing toward a truth I wasn't ready to face. The bar was dimly lit, crowded with laughter and clinking glasses. I spotted her instantly, Claire, in the red dress she'd worn on our 5th anniversary, her hair cascading over her shoulders. She was leaning toward a man at a corner table, her hand brushing his as she laughed. The sound hit me like a punch. I stood frozen, my pulse roaring in my ears. The man was older, maybe mid-40s, with a tailored suit and a smile that screamed confidence. He leaned closer, whispering something that made her blush. My Claire. Blushing for someone else. I could have stormed over, made a scene, let the hurt explode into rage. But something held me back, maybe the part of me that still hoped I was wrong. I slipped into a booth nearby, hidden by a potted palm, and watched. Their conversation flowed too easily, their touches too familiar. When he slid a room key across the table, her fingers hesitated before closing around it. That hesitation was a knife in my heart. She hadn't said no. I don't remember leaving the bar, but somehow I was back in my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Claire, almost done. Home in an hour. The lie burned worse than the whiskey. I drove home, the city lights blurring through tears I didn't realize I was shedding. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. I wanted her to feel the weight of her own choices first. When Claire walked through the door at 10:47 p.m., I was back at the dining table, the candles burned low, the food cold. She froze, her purse slipping slightly in her hand. "Oh, Michael," she said, her voice soft, almost guilty. "I'm so sorry. Work was a nightmare." I forced a smile, though it felt like swallowing glass. "No worries. You're here now." I stood, pulling out her chair. "Sit. I made your favorite." Her eyes darted to the table, then back to me, searching for something, suspicion maybe. But I kept my face neutral, my voice steady. "You look beautiful," I said, nodding at the red dress. "That's the one from our 5th anniversary, right?" She nodded, her smile tight. "Yeah. I felt like wearing it today." She sat, picking at the food, her usual warmth replaced by something guarded. We made small talk, but every word felt like a performance. I watched her, memorizing the way she avoided my gaze, the way her fingers fidgeted with her fork. The sapphire necklace stayed in my pocket, its weight a reminder of the love I'd poured into this night. After dinner, I suggested we open the wine I'd saved for dessert. She agreed, but her eyes kept flicking to her phone. I poured 2 glasses, then excused myself to the bathroom. Instead, I slipped into her office, where she kept her laptop. We'd never had secrets, or so I thought. Her password was still our wedding date. The screen lit up, revealing an email thread she hadn't bothered to hide. Meet me at the Meridian, 8 p.m. Don't be late. The sender's name was David, the man from the bar. My hands shook as I scrolled through months of messages, flirtations, plans, promises. Each one was a betrayal, small at first, then bolder, more reckless. I printed the emails, every damning word, and tucked them into my jacket. When I returned to the dining room, Claire was sipping her wine, her face a mask of calm. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Perfect," I lied. "Just needed a moment." That night, as she slept beside me, I lay awake, the emails burning a hole in my mind. I thought about the vows we'd made, the life we'd built, the nursery we'd painted for a baby that never came, the mornings we'd spent tangled in each other, laughing over nothing. How had we gotten here? Was it my fault, my long hours at the firm, my distraction with work? Or was it hers, chasing something I couldn't give her? The questions tore at me, but one truth stood clear. I couldn't let this go. The next morning, I called in sick and drove to a coffee shop to plan. I wasn't going to scream or beg. I wanted her to face the consequences of her choices, to feel the same unraveling I did. I spent the day gathering evidence, not just the emails but screenshots of her texts, the hotel's booking records, even a photo I'd snapped of her with David at the bar. By evening, I had a folder thick with proof, a timeline of her betrayal. When Claire came home, I was in the living room, the folder on the coffee table. She stopped short, her eyes locking onto it. "What's that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sit down," I said, my tone calm but unyielding. She did, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I opened the folder, spreading the emails across the table like a dealer laying out cards. Her face drained of color as she scanned them. "Michael, don't." I cut her off. "Don't lie to me again. I was there last night, Claire. At the Meridian. I saw you with him." Her breath hitched, and for a moment, I thought she'd cry. But she didn't. She straightened, her jaw tight. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" My voice cracked, betraying the hurt I'd tried to bury. "Tell me why you were laughing with him. Why you took his room key. Why you've been lying to me for months." She looked away, her silence louder than any confession. Finally she spoke, her voice small. "David, he's a client. It started as business. But it became something else. I didn't mean for it to happen." "Didn't mean for it to happen?" I laughed, the sound bitter. "You met him at a hotel, Claire. You wore our dress. You lied to my face on our anniversary." "I know," she whispered, tears spilling now. "I'm sorry, Michael. I was lonely. You were always working, and I—" "Don't you dare blame me," I snapped. "I loved you. I planned our anniversary to remind you of that. And you were with him." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. The room felt too small, the air too thick. I stood, pacing, trying to keep the pieces of myself from shattering. "I trusted you," I said. "Every late night, every excuse, I believed you. And you broke us." "What do you want me to do?" she asked, her voice desperate. "I'll end it. I'll do anything." I stopped looking at her. Really looking. The woman I'd loved was still there, but she was a stranger now, her betrayal a shadow I couldn't unsee. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I'm not deciding tonight," I said. "But you need to know what this feels like." I picked up the folder and walked to the guest room, locking the door behind me. For the next week, I watched her unravel. She tried to talk, to apologize, but I kept my distance, letting her sit with the weight of her lies. I met with a lawyer, not because I wanted a divorce. Not yet, but because I needed to know my options. I called David's office, leaving a message with his assistant. "Tell him Claire's husband knows." I wanted him to feel the same dread I did. On the 8th day, Claire found me in the kitchen, her eyes red from crying. I ended it, she said. I told David it's over. I want to fix this, Michael. Please. I looked at her, searching for the woman I'd married. Part of me wanted to believe her, to rebuild what we'd lost. But trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily. I slid the sapphire necklace across the counter. I bought this for you, I said. For our anniversary. I was going to remind you of who we were. But I don't know if we can be that again. She picked up the necklace, her fingers trembling. I'll do whatever it takes, she said. Therapy, time, anything. I nodded, but my heart was heavy. We'll try, I said. But not because you want it. Because I need to know if I can trust you again. The road ahead was uncertain. A path lined with pain and possibility. I didn't know if we'd make it, but I knew one thing. I'd never forget the night I sat alone at our anniversary table, waiting for a love that wasn't coming home.